We are live now.
Wait, Hemant is
Straight
doing
into
music.
Hemant's concert.
It's not Hemant actually. Sorry, sadness as everyone. Copyright claim मिलेगा but okay ठीक है.
क्या ओरिजिनली प्रोड्यूस म्यूजिक पे भी कॉपीराइट होता है क्या?
क्योंकि उनका म्यूजिक है ना.
Fuck it. I don't know. I have not really learnt it.
Such a
I
bad
mean
cold
that's.
open.
I
Such a
mean,
bad cold
Inside
open.
Out 2, which is a film about children, उसमें nice opening music के साथ गाली free.
Okay, that's good. That's all.
Yeah,
Sure,
that's
please
good
doesn't
enough.
go along.
Yeah, that's good enough.
Okay.
Um,
Hello. Welcome
we
back to
have
Queen's
Amartya
Head.
and Varun watching. Those are the two people we have.
Only two. Hopefully more people will join in.
Yeah.
Later on. Or they can watch it later. Three grown ass men on a movie about kids.
It's
Very
about
creepy.
emotions. It's
It's
not
about
about.
emotions, man. It's
Yeah.
about you're not good enough.
That
I'm
doesn't
not good
apply
enough.
to you, Varun. But like, हम सब में है ना emotions. So. Yeah.
Only stands.
Oh,
Hemant, I think with the face of yours, I think that sound doesn't go along. Na? I think that is the bigger issue.
Really? Oh,
The
Ting,
GS.
ting, ting. If that's how you're going to play for your kids, I don't know what is going to happen to this world. Huh?
I can do some fucking social. all minor pentatonic. I'll only do that.
Lovely.
But
Okay, so if you are new to the channel and if there are new
नहीं है
viewers
कोई
to
नया,
this
but sure.
episode, no, but like later on in
Later, yes,
retrospect,
yes,
please make sure you subscribe to the channel. It helps us reach out to more people. You can follow us also on Spotify, where we publish new episodes every week. And please check out the new episode about queer cinema by Dhruv and Chris.
yeah.
Chris is not in the
Yes,
chat, but he
please.
usually is.
Yeah.
It's a great editorial piece. It's a very good episode. Please make sure you listen to it.
We have two
Editorial
more
piece ही तो बोलूँगा.
editorial pieces.
It's a mirrored piece.
Yeah.
सर आपके पास कम से कम 10 घंटे का कंटेंट है, राइट?
Yeah, I mean, we've discussed boat revive.
10 hours of-
That's the next film, next discussion that will release.
Sir, this episode is what, 3 hours almost, right? 2 hours 45
But the
minutes.
next one is not going to be that long. I mean, yeah, this one we had to cover a lot of history of queer cinema in Bollywood. So yeah,
And then
but yeah,
there's
do please
Bollywood
listen. We
queer
did put in
cinemas
effort.
after- Yeah. If you want to go through all of queer cinema and like Velvet Underground and everything like that, Todd Haynes, if you want to go through all of that's going to take forever. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we didn't go much outside Bollywood only because we wanted to limit the frame. But we do mention Todd Haynes' work in any case. I mean, मैं तो करूँगा ही. I'm too much of a fan to not mention him.
Yeah.
Right.
Fred
Chalo.
Eddie- Yeah.
Let's
Alright.
recap.
Yeah.
Inside Out Part 1
Yes.
for the next 10 minutes. And
I'm
then
filling in for
we can
Aryan,
bounce.
and then as soon
Aryan
as
is
comes, I'll
joining, yes.
get chucked out. Yes.
He's joining.
I've
won't
not
get
seen
chucked
Inside
out,
Out
sir.
Part 2. I'll leave. Whatever, same thing.
You are going to fade into the consciousness.
God. Yeah.
You're going to be Bing Bong.
Stream of consciousness.
you're going to not be there anymore in the memories.
Yeah.
You'll
Yes,
be
and
long-term
yes,
memory.
Varun. I mean, this is what you were thinking about. I
Quid
suppose.
करे queer आशिकी. More like.
Oh,
Sanjeet's favorite of the social message movies.
Yes. Even Chris's favorite, honestly.
Yeah, that was. I mean, you guys were pissed off. I was trying to be sort of nice to the film. Anyways.
To that film, yes.
Yeah.
Inside
No,
Out 2.
recap.
Oh no, Inside Out, sorry.
Inside Out 1.
Directed by Pete Docter, the
Yeah. The head
PIXAR
man,
veteran.
the head boy
Yeah.
of
He's
Pixar.
the chief.
He's the
now.
CEO, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the
Yeah.
creative
Yeah.
head.
Creative director, yeah.
CCO.
Jeez.
Yeah. So what do you think of Inside Out? It came out in 2015, right? And
It
what was the state of
it-
PIXAR at that point?
Well, they had just come out with a very mid showing of Cars.
Cars 2 was
Cars-
2011.
Cars 3 was
2012?
a flop.
Cars 3 was 2016 after 2015, I remember.
Yes, yeah. And like they had So 2010 to 2018 was like the era where they were transitioning away from like John Lasseter's Lasseter being at the
Correct.
helm of things,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and then not Andrew Leslie,
Dan
uh,
Scanlon.
and
What's his name?
no,
Scanlon, right?
yes, yeah, and they and Catmull was again the technical head
Yes.
from the Catmull Clark subdivision surface. If anyone is any VFX people, the guy who invented subdivision,
Hmm.
it was the head of.
Hmm.
He then
Only
retired,
you're the
and then
enthusiast.
we had Lasseter also retiring, or not retiring. He just
No,
left.
no, he was
He's left the
chucked out,
company. I think
He left
there
the
were
company.
allegations.
Yeah, there were
yes.
sexual
He's
There
still
misconduct.
were
doing
allegations. You're saying
animated.
so like you're complicit within that.
No, no,
ऐसे
no.
बोल रहे हो.
I'm not sure because I read
There were
it back then
allegations. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
I haven't since. So
No, no,
I'm
he
not
was
sure.
chucked
Yeah.
out
Okay.
slash left because of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But he's
Yes.
still doing animated movies, is what I know of.
Is he?
R-
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But not
Interesting.
Pixar, like
Yeah.
for other
Different stuff.
studios or
Yeah.
something else.
He's
Yeah.
bagged
I
enough
mean, his
money in any case. So
yeah, he's like I'm sure he has some rights in like IP rights in
Yeah,
Pixar
he's a
cutting edge
producer.
he was the main
shares.
force behind it
Yeah,
becoming a big thing, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think so at least. Yeah. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he there was a lot. So Pete Docter was also one of the main
yeah.
creative leads, along with Brad
Yeah.
Bird, Andrew Stanton. Andrew Stanton was maybe the guy who came up with the whole framework
Andrew
and how
Stanton.
under and the guy who directed
Wally, no?
Finding
Finding
Nemo.
Nemo.
Oh no.
And he made up the Pixar story, their manifesto, where
Okay.
you have to have these like 17, I guess it was 17 or 21. 21
Hmm.
tenets of storytelling, and they have to
Hmm.
have that in all the characters and everything, and it's there, it's very
Hmm.
consistent in all of the movies.
You can sort
So
of like see what all like this time because I was rewatching Inside Out the first part. You can like mark it where what is happening and how the sort
right,
of thing moves in terms of what is how
I
the
think
conflict
Inside
is
Out
similar.
was in
Hmm.
many senses peak of Pixar filmmaking, right? Like
Hmm.
it combined everything holistically, whatever
yes,
be the story. I mean the
Hmm.
story works irrespective, but
Hmm.
in general, what the principles of Pixar stood for in the films and the
Hmm.
emotional heft and quality of it. I
yeah,
think
Hmm.
for me, Inside Out was the peak in general, and I think
Hmm.
it has been slightly downhill since because I think with
I
the
agree.
storytelling, I don't think so has been replicated. I've not seen Soul, the Pete
Oh,
Doctor
Soul.
yeah,
film.
that's the thing. I actually wanted to bring up that. Actually, I wanted to bring up Toy Story 3 first, because
Hmm.
Toy Story 3, I
Hmm.
thought was actually that was the peak. I think that was like what they call,
Hmm.
what Tarantino calls Apex Mountain on like rewatchable.
Seriously, Toy Story
Yeah,
3.
Toy Story 3 was their Apex
Okay,
Mountain, because it okay, it's
2010.
not just, yeah, it's not just because of like it was coming hot on the heels of Up, and
Correct.
they were the first animated movie to be nominated for Best Picture
Nominated
For
and
best
Best
picture,
Animated,
yeah.
which is
Best
the
Hmm.
most
Animated
unfair
Feature.
thing ever.
Hmm.
And that year, I felt like at least the way that they put their adventure movie trope
Hmm.
across is
Hmm.
had matured to a point where they were like, okay, now you have so many, you can create an ensemble cast out of toys. If
Hmm.
you're trying to do that, and you're trying to also build the story of your main character like Woody and the kid, you would not get
Sorry.
so
Varun has a
much.
great comment to put. Sorry, Hemant, for interrupting. This
What
is
is it?
groundbreaking.
Arjun,
Varun's mother saw him. It's
मैं
true.
गाली देके चलेंगे.
Aryan is here. Aryan is here.
Aryan is here
I
finally.
say,
He's
welcome.
yeah.
Salam,
Hello.
bhaijan.
Uh,
Hello, hi.
Hi.
At least ये
We are
10
live
minutes
stream Aryan.
I
Yes.
10 minutes delay consistency रहना चाहिए थोड़ा.
हाँ
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 I know.
कैरेक्टर
इसीलिए
ब्रेक नहीं होना
मैं
चाहिए ना.
fill in कर रहा था ना. Yeah.
Your bus heavy ear. You're
Yes.
you're just too slow. You're,
As per New York time
I'm
already.
very
हाँ
proud of
yeah yeah
that joke.
nice. Yeah.
Getting used to it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
इंटरेस्टिंग.
Okay,
ये
so
Yeah.
ये
yeah,
posters लेके जाइए न्यूयॉर्क.
हाँ.
so Toy Story 3 was, I felt, the peak, and then
Hmm.
after that I felt like they really fumbled with Cars too. And then
Cars 2 is their worst from whatever I've seen. So
it was pretty bad.
I don't think so. I
Worst
ever
Elemental.
finished it.
I've
No,
not,
no, no.
whatever I
Elementally, you
have
didn't like
seen,
Elementally?
I
It is,
still don't think it can be as bad as Cars 2. Because
yeah.
Cars 2 is just like strange. Like it almost ditches
About
everything
the
that's good about
about the
Pixar.
wrong character.
हाँ like it's
Yeah.
basically
Also,
वो
they didn't.
what Star Wars does like कि लैम्प पे पिक्चर बना देंगे हर चीज़ पे पिक्चर बना देंगे essentially whatever's there in the universe everything deserves its own thing. That was one of those things where वो whatever that annoying truck is
I
whatever he's
forgot
called.
its
Yeah,
name.
yeah.
What,
The
yeah, I forgot what
tow
The,
it's called.
truck.
the donkey
Yeah,
character
the
of of
whatever
Mars, yeah.
annoying thing he's called, right? So I mean, sorry, he's like really annoying, and they make him like
This
front and
third
they
time is
keep
not
him
annoying.
front and center. And third, may they forget him,
I've not
like
seen
almost like he never existed. So,
The Good
Yeah.
Dinosaur also.
Good Dinosaurs
I think
apparently
after
also bad.
Very
Inside Out, the
crazy.
only Pixar film I watched was Onward. That was also during pandemic,
Onward
so
also
because I
not
was.
supposed to be that good,
21.
right?
It
Yeah.
is
No,
very
mid.
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
But
I
I
think
like, but I like the low stakes wali movies. Like I like
Yeah.
Luca quite a
then
bit.
there's
I
Soul,
like
right?
I've not
I
seen.
love Soul.
Soul to is
Ah, Soul.
Pete
same
Doctor.
Pete
Soul is
Doctor.
very
So
high.
Yeah.
I think Soul is
that
definitely high stakes. It's
yeah, just life and death,
literally,
basically.
yeah,
Low
No,
stakes.
no,
low stakes. Just
low, no. I think low stakes. Luca was very low stakes.
very low
Turning
stakes.
Red was somewhat low stakes
I
Yes.
didn't like it.
comparatively.
I've
I
seen that.
Honestly,
I
like
just
Turning
Turning
Red.
Red
remembered.
was
I
I
didn't
fine.
like
like it.
Turning Red. So
I didn't
like
like.
again, I've not minded those films,
Elemental
but
also I felt was very low stakes.
The
sure.
big
Even
problem
Inside
about
Out
okay, I
is in a way very low stakes. The first one is at least.
The first
It's
one, I guess,
about
yeah,
yeah.
but
It's about moving. Yeah,
it feels big,
it
like
feels monumental. Yeah.
yeah, that's the thing that I feel is different between all Pixar movies is that there's some that feel important and there's some that
Yeah.
don't feel important.
Yeah.
Very clearly, from the beginning of the movie, you kind of know that this is not going to be that, like, this is going to be kind of okay.
Yeah.
They like Soul. I felt when I saw it, I was like, okay, this is like coming
Meter,
from a
yes.
very,
नाम भी
from a
बकवास
very,
है.
yeah,
हाँ,
deep place. And
हाँ,
I liked how I liked the at least the journey of how Inside Out 2 was written, like Inside Out, and or at least Pete Doctor's process,
sure.
because he is like it's a more emotional way of looking at things. He drives the story through emotion rather
Yeah.
than
correct.
Inward emotions.
like there
Yeah,
are a
yeah.
lot of set pieces. Like Cars 2 had like two big set pieces. Brave had one big set piece. Monsters Universe
Brave.
was basically just one big chase, and
Hmm.
and Inside Out was also a chase actually.
It
It
is
was
a
Cheese.
chase. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
very,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's done better than
Moves
yeah,
also
it
like a
moves really
freight
smoothly.
train.
Yeah.
Like I messaged Sanjeet saying that the first one though because Sanjeet said the new one is a bit ADHD, which I can
No,
imagine. But
I'll elaborate much more on it.
this one like I rewatched it the first one today.
Because
messaged him
there's
saying it's
anxiety.
busy.
That's why.
Huh?
Ah,
Yeah, I was about to say.
it
No,
is
but
the reason.
it's
Yeah.
no, but I remember the first one is busy. It's not chaotic. Like to me, like like everything's moving, but like it's not like you're confused in any way. So
I
yeah,
think it's busy in regard that it also appears busy because it's also catering to different demographics of what
exactly.
a conventional family movie
Mm-hmm.
resorts to. In that, it has those childlike, gleeful aura through which it can like lure in like kids and all. And then there's also the mystery and adventure element, which is like appeasing to people who are perhaps in their teens. And
Yeah,
then there's of course the mature themes that it in in envelopes basically, right?
yeah,
Like themes of basically how you
Mm-hmm.
come of age and how you cope with these different emotions and living in a world that can't just perhaps be navigated through just one emotion at a time.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
think
yeah.
in that way it has to be busy because it's that's the
Yeah,
only way it
100%.
can't
And
lose upon
I
one
feel
demographic.
the only knock I have against something like Soul, which I also very much like, I think
Hmm.
Soul is geared towards adults more, in my
Yeah,
opinion. Like I
yeah.
felt that it's very much
Okay.
like what Inside Out and that is see Inside Out is my favorite thing. Like it's very foundational to my the way I
Cinema
also look
watching.
at yeah cinema watching just emotions and how people process emotions. Like to me, it's like when people tell you as a child to always keep smiling, I always find that very annoying in general. And I think one of the things the film does, or even today, like I was sobbing like in 4 5 sections, like uglily
Yeah.
today also. And especially there's this section where it's the realization that sadness and happiness together work
Yeah.
together as
Yeah.
opposed to
Conjunction.
opposite
Yeah.
to each other. And getting to that realization in the way the film does, I thought a child can get it and I can get it
Yeah.
and we can all process it in an emotional way. And I thought that is just like, I can't imagine any other film doing this on this level, that they are appealing even to the
Correct.
children
Correct.
who this is essentially targeted towards, but of course
Yeah.
doesn't look at them like dumb people. It, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
acknowledges everything as
I might
yeah.
be in a minority here, and it's clearly too soon to tell with the discourse and the film just coming out like 2 3 days back. But I genuinely do believe that whatever you said through, the second one does that part in even a better way
Sure,
of
interesting. Yeah.
different emotions coming together and the realization of joy coming on terms that it's not just me alone who can take
Yeah,
Riley through all these journeys, different journeys with different
interesting. Yeah,
attitudes.
no, but I think one of the few things I did note, like even in like this watch, I'm basically front loading everything I have to say about Inside Out because I'll go out after
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Go for it.
No, so I think
No,
it's
just recap also a little bit for the
so
viewers,
it
so that we
tracks her.
set up
So
part
it
two.
tracks the life of Riley, who's 11, who's turned 11, but it actually, like, it begins from her birth in when he was like, you see her first emotion weirdly being happiness, because I think the whole thing is that
Joy,
you
not
cry,
Oh
happiness.
sorry,
yeah.
joy, but the first emotion is usually crying. So whatever, like, you get the whole tension between joy and sadness at the very beginning,
Yeah.
Yeah,
because the
Well,
child
it
is
could be
doing both.
different, right? It's because in all the people's heads, there are some one person is there in the center. That could be
I
the
was
first.
about to say this only.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah,
headquarter is different for everyone.
for
Yeah,
everyone. Yeah, so it could
yeah,
be different. Yeah,
yeah.
but
So
it's yeah, it's very. I mean, they have used that conceit in a very. They have made it a fundamental for their whole story. They've
Yeah.
guided all their decisions based on.
yeah, yeah. It doesn't ever feel like it's pushing.
Yeah,
It's like it's such a natural thing
yeah,
when we see it happen. I'm just like, why would you not see life play out like that? Anyways,
yeah,
I think the whole thing is that Riley is um, essentially it's centered around Riley moving from one place to another. And
yeah.
I think she goes from
from
Minnesota
Minnesota to San
to
Francisco.
San
San
Francisco.
Francisco.
San
It's both
Francisco,
of them
which
suck.
gets which gets amazing amounts of shade thrown at
Yeah,
it
yeah.
in this for broccoli
And Pixar is
pizza.
in San Francisco, by the way.
So that's
Yeah,
why, yeah,
Lucasfilm started in San Francisco.
yeah. So I think it's 11. She's 11. So I think the whole puberty thing is yet to come, which is what the next
Second
film
film
will
as well.
be about. So I think here the main thing to tackle is sort of getting uh, to terms with the fact that you have moved away from a place you have otherwise lived throughout your life, and now there are new challenges that you are facing. And to face those challenges, she's at a point in time when her emotions, rather than being able to control her or her also being able to control those emotions, both of them sort of go basically lose control of everything.
They're
Like, it's like,
fighting each other. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And it's just this whole thing ki joy and sadness were the central two forces within her headquarters. There's anger, disgust, and fear.
yeah,
Those are the five, base emotions that form her
Yeah,
headquarters,
yeah.
and everyone else's in that world, at least. Because
yeah.
I guess if you want to take this as Riley ki point of view, say you're watching in some ways, then the headquarter is probably also simplified in that sense. Because but anyways, it doesn't matter. I think
Amartya has a great thing to add. Looks like
this
reminds him
is
of the bridge in the Starship Enterprise in Star Trek. It's very intentional.
Oh,
yeah,
If the
yeah,
human is basically a ship and the emotions are the pilots.
yes.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting only.
It's a good
Yeah.
point. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's modeled after that. It looks like. Yeah.
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 No, but I think after that
Also,
it's
Sanket
just
wants us to discuss Rebel Moon.
Oh,
you
masterpiece
and
series. Oh man, of course. Yeah.
whoever Zack Snyder fans, please
Oh,
join forces.
Sanjeet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, but I think it's just joy and sadness, which are like the dominant emotions. They sort of get lost into, well, they get lost inside Riley's long-term memory. They
Yeah.
go to that side where, and the control is left over to fear, disgust, and what's the third one?
Anger.
Anger, who's hilarious, Bill Hader.
Oh my God, yeah.
Uh,
He was
Bill,
black.
yeah,
Bill
so
Hader is not in part two, huh? By the way.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. वो pay
There's
dispute with
two
her,
changes.
with him
Yeah.
Two
and
change in
Mindy.
cast, right?
Mindy
What's her
Yeah.
Kaling.
name?
Mindy
Yes,
But the
Kaling.
yeah.
voice cast is still stacked
It,
only, huh? In this
yeah.
part also. Maya
It's
Rudolph is
not
there.
noticeable.
Maya
Uh,
Yeah,
not
Rudolph.
Maya
Maya
Rudolph.
Hawk.
Maya
Maya
Rudolph.
Hawk.
Maya,
Maya
Maya
Hawk.
Hawk
Man,
is
I
the
wish
Maya
Maya
Hawk.
Rudolph was
main new
there.
addition, no?
Anxiety.
Maya Hawk.
No one
Yeah.
asked FBI agent how she's doing, especially agent. I mean, when she was in Brooklyn and she was the best part of the great
Yeah.
cameo.
Yeah. No, but
Anyway,
again, I think
Yep.
yesterday I was
Eddie Beatty
with
also.
yesterday I was with Varun and we were discussing IP, intellectual
Hmm.
properties, and everything related to that. And I was basically mentioning to him at least that I mean I miss Pixar even more when you see some of the live action remakes that Disney does and whatever they
oh,
are doing,
jeez,
because
yeah.
there is the fusion of emotion and motion actually in this, because both things are consistently, because this is a fast moving film, it is moving, because as you said, it's
Correct.
for children, it has to maintain a certain momentum, it can't have downtime.
Yeah,
When it does
Yeah.
have downtime, I think it's spectacularly well done.
yeah.
But the whole idea of the film is that joy and sadness have to return back to her headquarters and start dictating the emotions that she's feeling, because amidst the process of moving, she starts to feel extremely lonely. All her emotions sort of start to go haywire, and she takes. I think, and again, it's done in such wonderful sync that like how she comes to the point of wanting to leave her house and run back to Minnesota. Like every system has fallen in her. Environment, every memory she has, every world she has collapsed, and it's almost like any capacity to think rationally has also collapsed, and
The
then
personality
that sort
islands
of,
have gone down, and or
yeah.
if yeah, they're not
Hmm.
working.
This part, the rationale also takes over,
Yeah,
in
Huh.
like a big way.
Huh.
I think about
So,
regarding the rationale, I think one of the biggest criticisms of the first film, Jitna Bhi Kam Tha, it was
huh.
that it by going with this premise, it basically was saying that you will only feel and your actions will solely be dictated by how you feel, and it's only the your actions will always be a function of your emotions basically, which
But
I
that's
think is
not
a
the case, no? I thought it's ulta
it is
almost
it
like
is
your, huh?
it was,
Because
I think,
the
in the first movie, but the second movie very cleverly,
clearly,
I think, makes a good balance between the two. Of
I
there's
feel,
the system of belief that comes into play, which
yeah.
basically,
So
without
they
spoiling
they
anything.
do set up rule. So in every movie, I'm very glad about the
Hmm.
fact that they have not distracted from the rules of the movie in the same movie.
Exactly, it is an expansion of the world of the
Yeah, so inside, no, inside,
labyrinth of yeah,
just talk about Inside Out 1, right? Like if you look at
yeah.
any of the Pixar movies that came before it, the rules of the world are
Hmm.
very clearly set in the beginning of the movie.
Hmm.
They don't break from it.
Hmm.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
they try to build on that conceit as much as possible, which like
exactly. Yeah.
say for example, if you take the Elastigirl
Hmm.
sequences in Incredibles
Incredibles 2.
Incredibles, yeah.
where they are giving her powers and showing how her background was and how that she had like a whole like edgy background and that she had
Hmm.
suppressed
Hmm.
that for, and then you get to see more of the character and how she's basically Batman, she's Batwoman,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
how she's dealing with like what's his name, Riddler, instead of
Hmm.
Screenslaver. Yeah, the
Yeah.
great name by the way, Screenslaver, wonderful name. Yeah,
There's a
Yeah.
lot of punniness. I was
oh,
really
love that.
appreciative of it in this fun,
Underminers,
especially with
right?
House of Cards falls down.
Oh
Oh,
man,
it's a pack or whatever,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And what was
They had
then? There's a Chinatown reference in this
oh
somehow.
yeah, it's Cloud Town.
It's
Let
Cloud
it go,
Town,
Jake.
yeah,
It's Cloud Town. Yeah, that's really good.
yeah.
I loved
Hmm.
how like they kept moving. That they had like a gag. They used to set up a gag halfway and then pay off the gag later in the sequence. So it's
Hmm.
Hmm.
very much written like a screwball comedy, but
Yeah.
it's got those elements inside of it, but it mostly tries to drive it through emotion, where you're like, oh,
Hmm.
this Joy is feeling anxious about sadness touching everything. You try to
Hmm.
move the story away from the headquarters, and automatically
Hmm.
you are sucked away, literally sucked away into the into your own bad decision.
Yeah.
So that's how
Mhm.
Toy deals with it. And I like
Yeah.
that gag which was set up, that there is a tube that goes all the way to, like, the abyss.
Yeah.
You follow,
Mhm.
it's Chekhov's
Comes
gun,
back.
Chekhov's tube.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
much. Uh-huh.
very
There are
basic.
small Chekhov's guns that everywhere, that they, like, sprinkle in the inside
Yeah.
out, and then
Now
go
I don't know
to
what this is supposed to mean, but okay.
screwball
You
lover
like
he
you
is.
I
you
think
like Phantom Thread. That's why.
Yeah, you like, it's a
Phantom Thread is not
And
screwball.
great screwball comedy. Yeah.
it's a screwball
so.
comedy. Come
It's
Come
on.
an
on, dude. Yeah,
absurdist,
the sister and
dry.
brother, and then someone
I don't
comes
think
in.
it's screwball to nahi hai yaar.
You're a
Screwball
film
name.
formalist. You should know it is screwball
Yeah,
comedy.
he is
Nahi,
basically
firstly itni
faulty. He is
distinction.
Basil faulty. Phantom
No,
Thread
it's
mein he is Basil faulty, and then this is the maid who comes in. So see, this is all. It's all
no, no.
coming
See,
together.
I'm not saying that the film isn't comedic. I'm saying that it's not screwball comedic. I just think it's
Okay, okay, let's
darkly
not
comedic.
deviate.
Anyways,
Amartya
yes.
has a
Why are we on
question
Phantom Thread?
before we move to Inside Out 2 in depth. Let's do this question and then move ahead. Amartya is asking, should Pixar for the fuck of it try their hands at 2D animation
Okay.
as a one-off?
No, don't do it. Please don't do it.
Why?
2D animation
Why?
is its own thing. The 2D animation has probably, in the age now that we are living in, it's not gonna work anymore. No one's gonna relate to it. The people have
Kyun
become
boy
too.
and the heron and everything?
But
No,
no,
Boy
but
in the Heron is very 3D if you
I
think
did.
about it.
Acha,
There's a
okay. I
lot
have
of
not
depth
seen
in it.
it. I've not seen it.
There's a
I'm
lot
just.
of depth in that. So okay, so the language, the visual language that people are right now being
But
educated on are
Pixar
not.
is unique for its own good doing this kind of CGI animation, whatever.
No,
Yes,
but
but they do
also.
incorporate it. Like it will come back in Inside Out 2, right? Where the did you is it the toilet paper?
Oh
Is
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
this?
Correct, correct,
Isn't
correct.
isn't there a
They
sequence
do
in the
have
first
moments,
first one
yes.
also where it's abstract when they go into abstract thought and they have like
Yes.
crunched into like two
Oh yes, yes, yes.
dimensionality.
Yeah.
Something like
2D
that is
objects.
also
Yeah.
here also
Yeah.
because it's breaking away. But
And
it's a very it's a
did you
comedic
in that
thing, I
gag
would say.
itself you realize that they were trying to fight depth? Is that
Yes.
I have no depth.
Yeah,
Oh, I have
Yeah.
depth. Okay, and then he
Yeah.
has to get
Yeah.
depth.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
become a line.
Yeah.
So,
No, super
but
clever
then, yeah,
and yeah, I mean what else to say? I mean I so again I think for me it's just affective
yeah,
responses. I like this time I was aware of some of the places where I know the momentum sags a little bit. Like I think the
yeah.
Bing Bong
Pouchy.
Sags or
section.
slows down.
No, it doesn't slow down. It's just that I was just wanting it to get to the point of an emotional moment, essentially. Like Bing Bong
Okay.
ki adventures become a little tedious. Is my only thing. Does that make a difference to me? No, because that payoff is so
Oh
spectacular.
my god, yeah.
And I just to like I'll leave after this, but just to praise his use, or at least Pete Doctor's use of music in Inside Out, because
Yeah.
man, he knows when to use it and how to use it.
When
Because the
to yeah,
way
yeah,
it,
yeah.
like even in that Bing Bong sequence, you get three variations of the classic tune that Sadness played for us at the beginning of this live stream. Uh, one of them's like super optimistic. The second one's even more like loud and optimistic, and then it just sombers down, and you have the third try where it actually happens, where the sacrifice is made, and the
Yeah.
emotion needs to be hit, and the music in that section compared to
Oh,
the other two is just again, it's just amazing. He's I don't know why.
The kind of
I
background score you like.
the background score in this film is insane. Like just because that whole tune is incredible. The Michael Giacchino ka whatever he's done
the
here,
Inside Out
but
theme. Yeah.
yeah. हाँ तो ऐसे
Again,
यूज करेगा म्यूजिक तो मैं क्यों मना करूंगा सर किसी को यूज करने के लिए आपको पता नहीं है
oh god.
आपको
Not
पता
with
नहीं है
that
हमें
face,
क्या क्या
Hemant.
देखना पड़ता है आपने शैतान नहीं देखी एनीवेज
Oh,
I also think that Inside Out remains like probably a lot of people's favorite films, people who like and have rooted for Pixar films for decades. Is
Hmm.
that the studio has always been like great at like, turning ideas into live moving images, whether
yeah
it be through at times 2D animation or 3D with depth or not.
Hmm.
And with Inside Out, it gave Pete Doctor and the executives, whoever they were, an opportunity to actually personify these emotions who drive those ideas. I think
yeah
that's precisely why even if you put Toy Story 3, which I do, above an Inside Out, you would tend to remember how you felt during Inside Out more palpably than you would after having
Correct.
watched Toy Story
It
2.
is
I
very
think,
Because
and
it's
that's where,
obvious, right?
it's very
yeah.
human in that sense. Like that orb of blue and yellow. I don't think I'll
Yeah,
be able to forget it now for like whatever foreseeable future
yeah,
again. Because I'm just
yeah,
like,
Mm.
those are things that and as Sanket has mentioned a number of times, so I will flag it up. Yes, Sanket, Lars von Trier भी emotional पिक्चरें बनाता है,
yes.
but वो ऐसे नहीं communicate करता कि सब देख सकते हैं. Is my point. Like there is a difference to communicate the depth of something what
Like,
Pete
I
Doctor
don't
is
know why
getting at.
people say Michael Haneke is sad. He's actually pretty optimistic comparatively. And
To this guy, yes, yeah, 'cause he's a depressed man. Like you can't do
yes.
anything about it.
But
But
yeah, so I think, yeah, you're right. Like that, Pete Doctor is more. He can understand it on a fundamental level enough that's appealing to everyone,
Mm.
every
yeah,
Yeah.
age.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
and he can put it across in a way where, when you're excited about that situation, you are very open and vulnerable to feel something. It's like how people make you laugh and then tell you something, like something
yeah,
bad news, or like or in movies they tend to have like a very, friendly scene between two people and very mentor person, and that mentor's
yeah,
pakka gonna die in the next scene. So,
It's very
so
obvious.
that
yeah. In this, because
vulnerability comes across through action. So he's using
uh,
action as a medium for showing these kind of images.
yeah,
Yeah.
because in this like I had forgotten the moment where this is towards the end only where she hugs her parents while crying, and then they
Yeah.
cut back to the moment where that cry becomes a sigh of relief, or
Yes.
the almost a happy sigh of relief. And I was just like, I mean, again,
Happy
it's
side. Yeah.
so it's abstract concepts,
Yeah.
essentially emotional concepts, psychological concepts. Like if I had the option, I would happily say that should be mandatory viewing for every child,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
This
and
is like
After
parent.
2001, A Space Odyssey.
that's also
No,
intro to child psychology.
that shouldn't be mandatory viewing. No.
That's
Anyways,
anchored.
I will shut up and get kicked out,
Yeah.
and fade
We
as
can
Sadness had said.
Bing
So
fade.
bong.
yes, yeah.
Bye, Bing
Anyways,
bong.
how do I not end this stream and
Just
leave the
leave
studio?
studio. Just
Okay,
leave
not
studio.
like you that you end the stream.
No, no, no.
Okay,
Don't
fine.
be like me.
You will
Okay.
leave when you end. This is like the version of PRW
Anxiety
bowling.
king
I'm
energy.
taking my PRW bowling going.
Okay, we'll do a little bit of comments. 30 minutes back. Because Hemant will answer this one.
Why did it take 9 years for Inside Out 2 to come out? Because they had Soul to work on. Also, 9 years it took them to go from.
But animation in general takes
It
time,
takes
no?
a long
To
time. Yeah,
produce.
it's
Even
usually
once
like
it's
a 4 year cycle. It's pre-development of 1 year,
easily.
2 years of production, and then one whole year of editing. That's most
Yeah.
animation movies have like a lot of editing that
I
happens.
mean, that's also one of the reasons why Pixar movies are budgeted around 175 to 200 million all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they do take a lot of time. There are a lot of people involved in the project, right? So
Yeah.
many human resources. Because if you see the credits,
Oh my
the
God.
film is not even 90 minutes technically, if you include like 12 minutes of just credits, right?
Yeah.
At the
Mm.
end, I mean,
Word.
roughly.
And yeah, and also a lot of the vendors that they have are in other countries, and they have to like manage all that.
Correct. So it's a lot of
Mhm.
communication and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But we'll follow our general route. We'll do initial thoughts about Inside Out 2, and then just deep dive into what we thought about the film and film's direction, whatnot. Yeah. So, what is Inside Out 2? Hemant, do you
What
want
is
to?
Inside Out 2?
What is Inside Out 2?
It's a story that continues. It's a continuation of the story of Riley Sanderson, who is moved from Minnesota to San Francisco, just gotten control of her emotions and realized that she is not. She shouldn't run away from home, and
Hmm.
has a new understanding of how sadness is useful in her life. And now
Hmm.
she's in middle school, where she has to, when she's a hockey player, she's a very adept hockey player, and it's a huge part of her life. And that
Yeah.
is something that's a big driver of the story of Inside Out 2, where she's learning how to adjust in an environment full of older kids and other kids,
Correct.
and new friends, and dealing with growing up and growing out of relationships during
Yeah.
the time of puberty. So
all
this
while
all the
all
while,
while all
Yeah,
while the hay
All
wires
while
break loose with the
with the new
button of
emotions that
new
puberty
emotions
turning.
break
Yeah.
through,
yes, new
like
emotions
Yes.
with
break
the
through.
wrecking ball.
Yeah, like a wrecking ball.
And
And
the headquarters must be
Broken
re-established and
into.
rebuilt.
actually, it's a
Yeah,
basically the same story of Inside Out 2, where new
Hmm.
emotions come out. You have to deal with them. You
yeah.
go away from it. You come back.
Technically, it's the
You
same
learn
thing that
something, and
happens.
then you come back.
And
Technically,
even especially in regards to with regards to Joy's journey, right?
Yes, yeah,
Like she is sent back to her what back of her gray matter, I guess, and now then she also must navigate how to come back while also acknowledging that it's not just her decision or her
yeah,
emotion that would drive Riley through this important yet another important stage in her
yeah,
life, but that she would
yeah,
actually have to learn how to work as a team member, and probably the decision of her just churning out and discarding every new idea that popped up in Riley's head back to her brain wasn't a good idea, and that comes to fruition when she actually sees that all these horrendous thoughts have been accumulating in this big pile, which is eventually going to, which
hmm,
it is going to
back of
come
the
back.
mind, and then
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah. And they're basically trying to take the idea of understanding how, like, just embarrassing situations, things that we don't like, does not mean that they're not part of us, and it's something you have to accept.
That
acknowledging,
they're not.
You have to
acknowledging
accept.
the
Yeah.
Mm,
It's not
acknowledging
like you
moments
can
and
like yourself
mm,
all the time. You can't be like, I am a good person all the time. You can't be, I'm not nice all
yeah.
the time. Yeah. So you have, like, it's the realization that you are part, that it's actually extension of that whole multicolored emotions in a memory. Instead
Mm,
of a memory, it's the person. You're multicolored,
hmm,
multifaceted person, and realizing that you are that is what the point
mm.
is of Inside Out 2.
hmm, hmm, hmm.
And
So
it
what else did you think? Like, what initially were your thoughts after watching the film?
I love the audience reactions. I always go for theaters just for that. It's like, oh, the kids, man, they are so. I love kids. They're so, and I hate them. But in the movie theaters, they give very honest reactions, right? So you get an idea of
Yeah.
you get you get an idea of how good a movie is based on whether they are engaged, and whether, like, parents
Mm.
are also engaged along with them. Like the
Exactly.
parents,
With
everyone around,
families.
yeah, everyone comes with their families and everything, right? So
Yeah,
they
yeah,
all
yeah,
talk to each
Yeah.
other, and I was alone. I wanted to go alone because I was like, I don't want to hear
Same,
someone
same.
else's this thing. I want to just listen. I want to listen to, like, just the
And it's just a different feeling when you're watching a good or a great family movie. You can palpably, you can feel
yeah,
how the parents or the elders, so called,
yeah,
are bouncing and reflecting back on the emotions
yeah,
out loud of
yeah,
their
yeah,
kids, right?
exactly,
It's
yeah,
like a
hmm.
very clever, it's a proper communal
Interactive
experience in that
exercise.
sense, because you
It's an
can feel
interactive
how
exercise at the end of the day. Hmm.
exactly you can sense how different generations or different demographics are jumping onto each other's energy. And I'm so glad I watched it in the theater on the opening day, because I got a fourth row, and I wanted to sit alone in that entire one row, and yet I had family sitting right next to me down to the fourth row of the auditorium. And there's like multiple instances when the audience is left, like elders, okay, like grown up childs, they were like reverting back to the cues on screen, and they were like, oh hey Pauchi, and they were like actually they were with the film throughout.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And whenever the movie breaks the fourth wall, right, which happens I think twice, once very
Couple of times.
evidently,
Yeah,
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 everyone
yeah, yeah.
was like, oh hey Pauchi, hi Pauchi, let's chant with this new character, which is always
Mm-hmm.
great to see in a family film.
No,
yeah,
but that's also another thing. Like, this film is
Mm.
sort of designed for, like, reaching out to you in a way.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and
Yeah.
I think it is a product of its own time. Like, I feel that it anxiety
Mm.
emotion, that is the new entrant in the number of emotions that come in.
yeah.
Mm.
What else? What all emotions are there?
What
Envy,
do we? Envy, okay,
Jealousy,
anxiety,
huh?
envy,
Yeah.
embarrassment, and ennui.
boredom.
Oh yeah,
Anxiety.
Adele
Ah,
Exar
boredom.
of all people, voiced by a Palm d'Or winner. uh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, and hot on the heels of strangers. Yeah, or like people like us, right? Isn't that it? All of us. What is that one? Where she's in
all
like
of us stranger. Who?
all of us strangers. No, no, all not all of us strangers.
No, no, no.
It's a triple one where she's with Q from from this thing uh, ah,
Ah, Adele
James
Extrapolos.
Bond.
yeah,
Passengers.
Passages, yeah.
Passages, not
Yeah,
passengers.
great movie.
Passages.
I forgot completely the name. Yeah, but it's actually a really good movie. I would highly recommend.
Okay.
But okay,
Yeah, yeah,
like all these emotions, they all come in to give a new understanding for the other emotions. They're all basically playing off of other emotions. Everyone has a pair basically. Fear and
Hmm.
anxiety get along together. Embarrassment and sadness get along together. Joy,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
On we, I guess, is disgusting's friend,
Hmm.
and yeah, that and anger. I don't know.
Yes,
Anger and
sir.
joy are the ones who actually come together.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I think yeah, in the end, because anger and joy usually didn't get along in the first one, and the second one, he immediately just says, "Hey, I can't be the
Yeah.
angry." I mean, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and it
They're
becomes
both controlling each other in a way, right? Sort
yeah,
of.
and it becomes more of a like because in the first one anger mostly takes over, and disgust and fear have no clue what they're doing, and it's
Hmm.
something that becomes very evident in the end of the movie where you're like, okay, anger can't do anything anymore, now it's out of their control. So I think that's like in the middle, like I thought that this whole thing was against free will, but I think this has a lot to do with free will as well, because
It does. It does.
because
Hmm.
even though the emotions are pushing you to do something, you can actually overcome your emotions and
Bypass. Yeah.
bypass
Exactly.
that and act it based on
Mm.
your belief system. So
Hmm.
that belief system is the one that's making the person rather than the emotions, because
Emotions
anxiety is
itself.
the
Yeah.
one that
Yeah.
drives everything to the end of the movie, and then you get that free will, where the belief system, the not the artificial constructed one, but the original natural belief system of that person drives their actions instead of anxiety alone. So yeah,
You
like
know,
joy.
if you want to be a good sequel to any film, okay, especially when it's such a mega hit, box office,
Yeah,
critically acclaimed film, you have to
Hmm.
be narratively, you have to be mature, more mature than your first film, okay, in
yes,
terms of the course you take. With Inside Out 2, you have to be particularly more mature because it is that journey that you're channeling your
Contextually.
yeah,
narrative through. It
Correct.
is the stage of adolescence, right? And
yeah,
I still don't know whether Inside Out 2 is better than Inside. I don't think it matters, but
I
I
don't.
do know now for a fact that it's definitely a worthy sequel. The moment I realized that, oh, this movie, even without Pete Doctor's involvement in the project or in the script, it is going to make the belief system of Riley the central MacGuffin of the story. I was sold on that point alone. I knew this movie
Hmm.
is going to work for me regardless of that, because that in itself is a mature decision to progress, to
Yeah.
naturally progress and organically progress your story forward. And I
That's
think
true. I
it's
think.
that
Yeah.
central MacGuffin that all the emotions, what Hemant beautifully described, that all the emotions, we get these new dynamics with the new emotions as well with
Hmm.
the old ones. I think that energy bounces off in a fairly convenient and effective way, precisely because the central MacGuffin this time around is Riley's belief system, which comes to play in the end
Hmm.
when she
Yeah.
realizes that this is the way to buy. And that's what I was implying at the start, that whatever criticisms Inside Out 1 had, that as Eamon said, that it is kind of anti free will in a way, that oh, आप जैसा feel करोगे, your emotions, your actions will be a function of your emotions, nothing else.
Correct. Correct.
Here, free will comes into play, which is also a
Hmm.
good defense. It
But
in a
then
way
it also
makes the first
drives,
film
in turn,
yeah. It
drives your
drives
belief
it
exactly.
system.
Yeah,
will
Yeah.
also, it makes the first film even better in that way, because now you can see the
Hmm.
context. Now you can see that usme free will belief system nahi tha, because she was still growing. She was coming
yeah,
on terms with her own emotions at one at a time, and
yeah,
now all of them have to come together to
yeah,
help her
Hmm.
navigate through this labyrinth of puberty, basically.
yeah,
I think even in the making of it, I think it's an interesting decision how anxiety is also part of it, and how the filmmaking also is a little ADHD, because the
yeah.
Yeah.
characters talk really fast in
Oh
general.
my god,
Like
yeah,
the bouncing off of dialogues is way quicker than it was in part one,
yeah,
and that's
Yeah.
what, like, I mentioned Dhruv also in the, like, while we were
Mm.
chatting on text, like, about how I thought the film was a little more ADHD than part one,
Mm.
because, and it's more gaggy in terms of just how comedic bits come into play. You're
yeah,
chuckling
Mm.
more so than you were in part one,
yeah.
right? In general.
Mm.
I guess they want you to
It
enjoy
also
these.
has to
Yeah, Like
It
even
also,
Dark Knight, okay, like I just saw Dark Knight behind you. I was remembering good sequels, and in Dark Knight also there are a lot of gags. Like in the beginning of the movie, right? There's like,
yeah.
I'm not wearing hockey pads. Like when you're just getting back
Mm.
into a world that you really like, then you want that,
To
like that
ease in.
warmth that you had to
Hmm.
ease
Comfort,
in. Yeah,
yeah. And
Correct.
especially with this movie, because not only it has to live up to the expectations of the generation who were
oh, yeah,
young
like
when the
9 years.
original came
Yeah, those
out.
guys are all 9 years older now. The
Exactly,
people who
exactly.
was
So it's catering. It's obviously catering to parents, mature audience, जो भी है, but it has to cater to these two different generations. मतलब mandatory. It
yeah,
has to cater to at least ये to जो 2015 में who were like 9, 10 or 15, and now people who are right
Or
now
18.
9, 10 or in their
they're
teens.
they're 18 now, man.
We were 18 when uh, this
We
part had come out,
were
right?
eating
Imagine how
when we
young
came
I
out,
was.
man. Yeah, sadness. I am sadness today.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
I have,
Amartya has a question, and I think it's a
mm,
very interesting question to speak about in terms of Inside Out 2's criticism. Do you think criticism, it is like the sequel is the same story as the original, is a criticism or a feature for part 2?
no,
What do you
it's
think?
I think
Empire Strikes Back
it.
has another Death Star.
Hmm.
You're like every other story here. You just have the same conceit again and again. It's if it's an adventure story, especially, you can't come if you have a world that you've already established and then you're adding some feature to it.
But it's also about like how the stories usually always repeat in your head, right? So it's
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, kind
contextually
of,
works,
yeah.
no?
I
Contextually, it
think
does work. Yeah,
it bears more resemblance and features in terms of the very clear cut narrative threads that do come at play, but not in terms of the overall thematics. I think the thematics, and it's a clever way, na, but that it is making it clear from the get go that this is puberty now. This is a different stage in Riley's life. So the
yeah,
Hmm.
thematics are naturally going to change. The dynamics of the thematics, at least.
I also have
yes,
another question. I mean, which I would put in as a criticism. So I will say I loved Inside Out, but it's not a seminal film for me as much as it is for, let's say, someone like Dhruv,
yeah,
who's
Mm.
like, who holds it in like super high regard. I
yeah,
think it's a very good film, but I feel Pixar's problem after, I mean, until 2010 I had seen a bunch of their films like Toy Story Part till 3 and Up and all those, Wally also. I think there is a certain mechanical quality to their filmmaking, right?
yes,
You sort of know when that certain emotion is going to hit you. You know that there is going to be uh, a pause here where this character is going
Mm.
to burst out and talk about things, like
yeah,
Mm.
how Joy does in this
yeah.
part,
And
right?
you're the first one,
You,
yeah.
you know what this is going to happen. Don't you think that takes away from the surprise of just filmmaking in general to move you beyond just the core emotion and taking you in like a certain whirlwind of just, oh, you're now you're in a spot now. You get it
Okay,
what I'm trying to say?
see something.
When you
Well,
watch something like Toy
soul.
Story 2, or let's say Up, when you watch
Yeah,
Up for the first time,
yeah,
you
yeah,
remember being jolted by the emotions that it was trying to put you through, right? Because you were not
yeah,
familiar with the tropes also,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So the way you were channeling the journey through the film, doesn't that also come into play when you've already done that trope multiple times? Don't you feel like some left turns are needed for a sequel to also work? That is my question,
Okay. It
because I
is,
think
yes.
you do need.
You do need sequels. I mean, you need this sort of. This seems like more of like a DLC for Inside Out
Mm.
rather than like a. It's like
Full
1.5.
blown out feature.
It's not. Yeah, it's not
Mm.
Inside Out 2. It's Inside Out 1.5.
Mm.
It's
Correct, correct, correct.
it's not got any of those feature. I mean, if it was something like, or at least what I was expecting was in puberty you will have. I mean, okay, yeah, they had like anxiety,
Feelings.
you had ennui and everything like that. I thought that they would let those feelings not
Feelings, yeah.
do things, rather let
Mm.
them be in charge for a little bit. Like all of them have to be in
Mm.
charge equally. But in
Hmm.
this, I feel like anxiety was taking too much of a front and center role. Like I think they didn't. I guess the setting also maybe hurt them. Is that they
Yeah.
should not have just kept it like a hockey camp as their setting.
Mm.
They should have gone full high school mode.
Hmm.
If they had gone
No,
full
but
high,
then when you're doing the hockey camp 3 days, you're sort of containing the film in this
Containing,
much
and
and
you
telling a
have
story
to,
of
I think
whatever
you
three
have
days.
to contain
yeah,
it in this. I mean, it's not necessarily for you to contain it, but with regards to Inside Out, you have to contain it because you are basically constantly jumping back and forth between Riley's external world and her
Yeah.
internal world.
Yeah.
Right.
That is
I
also
think
true. Correct, correct,
that's
correct.
why I think
Hmm.
I had this issue. I was consistently thinking that what if it would have been such a better movie had it been like a bit expansive in terms of, but there's obviously the excuse that oh we just
But
want to make more
that this
sequels.
is one great thing this part does is
Hmm.
managing what she does in her real life, and then
Exactly.
inside
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
emotional,
Really.
everything is happening in conjunction. It's, I think in part one it's more of what
It's
happens with the emotions and
exactly
not so
more
much with
internal.
Riley in her real life.
Yeah.
Here
Yeah.
we are dealing with her real life much because of the consequences drive her belief, so it's
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
working out as a story. But I thought
Or
the
I guess
balancing act
thematically
was
also,
just,
right? Yeah.
sorry.
It's thematically also, right? Like when you're smaller, you're gonna have more of an inner life in only with your family
Hmm.
and everything, or like
Hmm.
just some
Yes, yes,
friends and
yes.
everything. You don't have that
Yeah,
much
yeah, yeah.
exposure to the outer world as much as you're having as you're going
Correct,
to become an
correct.
adult.
I mean, in this part there is a friendship island which is larger than what the family
The
island is
family
also
island,
for, right?
exactly. Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
driving force for any sort of emotion also becomes just exterior factors about personality
Yeah,
development
yeah.
and whatnot.
Their sense of
So I
self, how
thought that was an
that is portrayed. Yeah,
interesting bit. I just think my problem with Pixar still sustains. I mean, Onward I thought was a proper bastardized version of what Pixar stands for, and
yeah.
we've discussed it in one of, like, when we started recording in 2020, we did discuss about Onward.
Onward, yeah, yeah,
And for me that was one big issue, is because you can't just keep bringing in big names and expect that you can make a good film, right?
yeah,
You can't keep just doing the same tricks back and again, like, right?
yeah. I mean, I felt the same way
Otherwise,
about Lightyear. Yeah, Lightyear
I've
was
not
something
seen
that
that.
Was
I've not
was like.
all
seen
ripped apart.
Pixar much post Inside Out. I've barely seen like one
You
or two.
know, I understand, Sanjeet, what where your criticism is coming from, but I think
Hmm.
you also have to consider. I mean, this is out there, okay? This is not what I think, but you have to take this into this particular regard that Pixar has tried during the pandemic years, however
Hmm.
bad the brand may have diluted with its treatment of just dumping these releases, but all studios have done that. Let's be honest, okay?
Hmm. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think it did try. It's just that pandemic ऐसे time पे आया that it just kind of blanketed that creative lead that it took during those years. But it did try to give the directors their autonomy by coming up with these self-reflexive stories through channeling that through animation. I think now they are in such a bad stage that the best and the most convenient way for them to get an audience and to do it well is through an already familiar template, and with Inside Out 2 it's even more familiar, right? And I
Okay.
think I'm just kind of steel manning the quote, steel manning whatever Pete Doctor himself said, I think 2-3 months back before Inside Out 2's release, when asked that, he said, I don't know the exact quote, I think you could look it up online, it's out there, but he said something regarding that there's now the studio at this point is looking at very distinct commonalities across the demographic audience, and it is looking at those commonalities through the lens of how it commodifies this kind of entertainment, which got a lot of backlash because as critics or as lovers of film, we
Hmm.
aspire to watch new we expect to watch filmmakers break different layers and of filmmaking and create new grammar while giving us the
Yeah.
same repetitive
Yeah.
story, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's just kind of given
But
what
I'm
context.
still a little confused on what does he mean by commonality? Like
He
even
said
emotional
something
commonality
basically,
or
yeah, emotional like universality of the
okay.
emotions, and
Okay.
he
Okay.
is,
Okay.
and he clearly, I think if I'm not wrong, he also stated that we have tried giving autonomy to directors by reflecting their own stories through our animation and through the
Right, yeah.
features,
I
Okay.
mean,
but it
that's the
clearly
whole
didn't work.
Elemental was made by a guy who,
Elemental,
yeah,
yes,
aged
and
like
even
I've not seen.
I think even
aged like a
Moana,
computer.
I think
Yes,
to a certain
Moana was
extent,
also, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But
Almost
Moana
all
is not
the movies.
Pixar.
Moana's Disney,
It's
but
Disney, right?
Moana is Disney. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
no,
think this is Disney and Pixar, if I'm not wrong.
Disney
Inside Out
owns
2.
Pixar. Yeah,
Disney owns Pixar
No,
owns,
but it's distributing it as well, right?
because they are the owners, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that they're also like distributing.
I was
Wasn't it
speaking.
different? Oh,
I
So
don't know.
even Luca, I guess Luca is also made by someone who is,
yeah, Luca,
It's a
right?
Pixar film.
yeah.
Semi-autobiographical.
The Turning Red is made by an Asian director, Canadian person who, and the whole story is based in Canada. So
Asian.
they have like,
I'll try
My
to
issue
look
with
up that quote, but
Turning Red is
anyways.
something else.
huh?
No,
What?
my
Sorry?
my my problem with Turning Red is something else. It's more to do with just finger pointing at something and like, we should talk about this. So you're making something. I think the idea of turning red I mean, I'm digressing. I want to say that uh, the idea of turning red is very interesting, right?
Yeah,
It's a little, surreal type thing. But my problem is the way you're trying to channelize a certain emotion by, and the journey of that character you're trying to finger point and tell, okay, this is what I want.
yeah,
We should talk about this.
yeah,
That
yeah,
is not something I genuinely enjoy. Like,
yeah,
Inside Out doesn't do that thing of, we should talk about this. It's happening for the character, right?
yeah, yeah.
It's
And
not
all
like the
those
director is
elements, like,
saying,
okay, like,
oh, we should do this. It's not
yeah,
supposed to be
I
that.
actually I have a problem with how people are viewing movies about friendship. Is that they don't show the friendship; they just talk about it. They. I feel like there's a lot of
Watch Sanjeet's film for that. You'll
Huh?
know how to show friendship.
how to show
ए,
friendship.
एक बारी बस. हाँ.
No, no, anyway, sorry.
And in this they show their friendship in a way which is more action based. It's more like they're doing something together, or they're having a certain kind of close.
Adventure, I think, and it also makes
Adventure,
sense
yeah.
that,
Yeah,
like, in why do you थोड़ा digress हो जाएगा, लेकिन why do you always tend to go back to your childhood friends? Because those friendships are built on experiences, on adventures, right? They are not like, oh, मिले political debate किया, oh, same तेरा letterbox
that's
rating है.
Varun, how we
Yeah.
became friends with Varun. Political
No,
discourse.
I got the code, by the way. Do you want me to, like,
हाँ हाँ, please
shoehorn it
please
Yeah,
in?
yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, so in a Bloomberg profile, I think, executive chief creator Pete Docter framed mass appeal as a means to an end by saying, quote, the studio's movies should be less a pursuit of any director's catharsis and instead speak to a commonality of experience. So basically what he was saying is that कि हमको पैसा चाहिए, ये सब personal वो सब
No,
नहीं चल रहा.
I know. I think that's no, that's not the.
Yeah.
It's not about money. It's actually about how, if you want to tell an idea which is specific to you, or
Yeah.
specific to a person's background, or anything. Like, take Elemental for example. The simple
Hmm.
thing that, like, oh, we are Asian kids, and if someone Asian kid is marrying a white person,
It's an Asian story.
yeah, it is. Yeah,
Elemental is an
Elemental
Asian.
is, well, yeah, where the fire people are all where they move in, they're all immigrants because some flood happened. They're moving into Water City or Ice City. They're all basically immigrants. They're all running a restaurant, and she's a kid has Asian parents. She's not. She has to suppress all her emotions. She has to take too much responsibility just to make her white boyfriend understand that. Or that is the whole story of Elemental. Yeah, and that is some specific
I'm
to,
not sold on
yeah.
that pitch. I'm not.
Because no guys, no, but how do you show it, right? Like, you show it by being surreal. Like, Turning Red is about getting your first period, or like
Yeah.
going, or not you meaning different people than us.
Mm.
So there is a whole like a surrealness that comes, like Sanjeet had said, and how they showed it, but they were talking about it directly, and talking around it, rather than
Hmm.
what that emotion is making that person feel, because they only feeling one emotion. They're only feeling, oh, I'm sad, okay, I'm sad, I'm going to just cry, rather than I'm going to be sad and then make actions that a sad person does, the way that Inside Out
Hmm.
does. Inside Out is like someone
Exactly.
will do
Yes.
these things, rather than, oh, I'm anxious, I will talk about being anxious, and then
Hmm.
the whole point of Inside Out was that your emotions do drive you. Is that how these emotions can manage themselves is a sign of adulthood. And even in, like, other movies
Hmm.
where they're showing very specific ideas which maybe not everyone feels, like, there are people who never go get who don't think of anxiety, they think of worrying, like, like, I used to be a big worrier. I always worry all the time. Like, that's not anxiety, or to some people that might be something like, just okay, that's just part of life, is worrying. And eh, to relate to that, you have to get them into a mental space that that person would be and empathize.
Mm.
And to
Yeah.
empathize, you have to have a universal a commonality.
Of course, of course.
Like I can't relate to riding a sandworm, but I can relate to a big task coming at me, and I am trying to
Yeah.
navigate that big
Hmm.
task and
Mm.
No, but that has always been the
to
selling
problem
point, right?
solving.
I think this sort of trend of telling directors telling personal stories
Mm.
as a whole in Hollywood, um, in American films started mostly with Roma, right?
Yeah,
Like
Mm.
in the last, let's say, in the last decade or 15
Okay.
years,
yeah,
Roma
Mm.
was the one defining film which basically started selling personal
Yeah.
stories as cinema,
yeah,
right? And
Mm.
in that, people started finding their own
In an open
um,
way, you mean?
in an open way. People started
Marketing way.
finding their finding their own common emotions, right?
Yes,
Like
yes.
you can watch something like Roma and you can still
Mm.
get that emotion, and maybe feel, maybe cry, or maybe have some
Yeah.
emotional connect. Tarantino had his own with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
yeah,
where he's
Mm.
reminiscing his own childhood and making something of his own personal
yeah,
story from
Licorice.
nostalgia. So
yeah.
so I think Licorice also correct.
Yeah.
So
Licorice, yeah,
I'm saying that happened in Turning Red also. I think Turning Red is a personal story, right? At the
yeah,
end of the
Mm.
day, but you need that constant that commonality in emotion comes in through that story itself. You don't need something pinpointing to tell me, okay, this is that emotion you should be feeling,
Mm.
unless
it's like
it's
using
like
music.
something inside
It's like
out.
using music cheaply. I hate people who I or not people. Okay, I hate
Yeah,
moments where music is trying to drive me to feel something. I'm like, I'm not
Yeah.
feeling it.
yeah,
Don't force me to feel it. Like so,
Mm.
yeah.
that is something
So many
that
films.
comes from the filmmaking. Like you said earlier, is that like the filmmaking has to show that emotion. I mean, through staging, through framing,
Mm.
how you're pacing your
Lighting,
shots. So
everything
yeah,
works
you're
in. Yeah,
using your words and then making it into action. So that has to
Mm.
correct.
happen. And this is that's why I always feel that Pixar has to do can't do 2D, because 2D is not built for that. 2D is
Mm.
not 2D does not have the camera vocabulary that 3D has, because we are
Mm.
all built
Correct.
right now with visual language that is 100 years old now, of how
Mm.
things are. Like you show a kid, I would say that a kid can understand Inside Out and Mad Max Fury Road the same way, because of
Mm.
just how it's shot and
Mm.
how everything is in exactly the right place where your attention will be, and it
Mm.
drives the story forward. And it doesn't even have to have dialogue. Honestly,
Mm.
I would do the whole that what Steven Soderbergh treatment of Indiana Jones and the last it's not Last Crusade, Raiders of the Lost Ark, where it's black and
Mm.
white and there is only soundtrack of Social Network, where
Mm.
it's black and white and you have just the soundtrack of Inside Out. I can understand what the emotion is, how the scene is being cut, and how he's
Hmm.
holding on those characters to show what emotions they're feeling. And that can say loads about a story rather than filling it up with detail. Like I can
Hmm.
find like I issue with having like what if there's an Inside Out 3, right?
Mm.
They
There
haven't.
will be, right,
There will be. I'm
with the
pretty sure.
mammoth box office.
Yeah,
Mm.
and how much did Inside Out 2 make?
Is it
Inside
doing
Out 2,
I
good?
it's
Ari, it
2000.
opened at
It
300
made its
million.
money back. Yeah.
It
Okay.
opened at 300. No, no, no. It makes its money back at 400.
Oh wow. Okay. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
double the budget because of
You need to make double the budget, two and a half times actually. I mean, not two and a
Mm.
half. You need to make two and a half. He ho gaya na.
yeah, 2.5 years.
Two and a half to actually make your budget back for any Hollywood film in general.
Yeah, or a big
Is
budget.
it because
American
of
film.
marketing or
Yeah,
foreign distributors?
global
Marketing,
distribution.
distribution, and then distribution to producer money is a little different because I think it's 50 60 50 50 or 55
Mm.
45 division and all that.
Yeah,
Varun says Hemant writes Sandworm to work every day presenting Hemant Reddy's.
nice.
You didn't tell them about your Rampiari,
What? My
your
Raja.
sandworm.
Oh my. What the my my Subaru is
Yes,
yeah,
Subramani.
my Subaru.
Waiting for Aryan to throw, I saw the TV glow
I'll throw my laptop away first.
under the bus.
Oh, you didn't like it? I
He
actually
didn't, he didn't.
I
No,
have
watch it, matlab.
okay,
Watch,
yeah.
watch.
Yeah, yeah. Staging lighting क्या है? Let's do rapid cutting.
Okay.
Tell
Okay.
that to Siddharth Hemant
Well, rapid cutting. I mean, we live in the
or
age of
Warner.
Nolan is our god, right? Like he's the king of rapid cutting, like so.
Yeah, but he
Not Tony
stages it well.
Scott. Then, so all these movies,
Tony Scott is stylish.
and well, James Cameron also, like all these people
He
have.
doesn't do rapid cutting.
Oh God, come on, man! Like the whole scene, your Terminator 2, the just chase
That's
sequence.
not rapid cutting. Rapid
It is.
cutting is taken 3 में jumping over Liam Neeson jumping
Okay,
over fence. 9 cuts in 5 seconds.
yeah,
That's what he means.
okay.
Nolan can do rapid cutting. He's good at it.
Edgar Wright is
Varun
silent.
says, "Oneers को please steady camping करना बंद करो." Tell that to Neeraj Pandey. I think there's something to be said about the commerce art house and the universal personal thing, which can accommodate what to what degree. Spending
Spending
4-5 million on a personal story versus 100 million. No,
on just
I
a
think
personal story.
you can tell a personal story for 100 million also, but just the whole point of the story should be to resonate with people. Like
Yeah.
you're telling a personal
Good.
story is about
Yeah.
relatability, right? At the end of the day,
Yes. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
an experience, either of these two things.
Yeah.
It should connect with the audiences on these two basic things.
I think it
Otherwise,
should, and it tends to connect if you have the resonance between your personal story versus the actions on screen happening through your what do you call it? Surrogate character, I think, surrogate protagonist.
Like,
Whether
surrogate
you are able
protagonist.
to,
okay, I'm gonna very curveball. I'm gonna talk about Ghera here because I'm trying to remember.
bro, I'll throw my
Why?
TV and my laptop under the
No,
bus now,
because it's that it's a difficult character, like how a
under the
difficult
water.
character. No, okay,
So
well,
sorry.
then we can talk about like
Mm.
characters like in Godfather Father 3, like
Mm.
if you want to talk about like
Like
people
better
make bad decisions, yeah. Like when they make bad, you're like, why did you make that decision? Why did you do it and everything? You have to relate to them making that bad decision.
Yeah, like
And you
every
should
other
feel
horror
sorry for them
movie.
rather than you should feel frustrated with them.
Every other horror movie, correct.
Yeah, every horror movie. Like you have like there's the sequence. Okay, we can get into spoiler territory.
Yeah.
There is
Yeah,
no
yeah, yeah.
spoiler, actually.
There
What
are no
spoiler?
spoilers.
Yeah, where the moment where like she just takes the belief system and puts it in
Yeah.
that launcher and just throws it away, right?
Mhm.
That is like a shocking. It's almost like a killing moment. Like
Yeah.
everyone was like gasping when they
Mm.
Gera, yes, I got Father. And he had like the whatever the framing was there was that it was showing the helplessness of the other emotions in front of anxiety, which is a
Mm.
mirroring of like as you say it, you can literally
Exactly.
feel the juxtaposition, right? Is
Yeah.
that it is that anxiety will actually drive all the other emotions if you give it
Mm.
enough space,
Yeah.
and there was too
Yeah.
much space being given to anxiety, and that was the whole point of the story. I think maybe
Mm.
if they were trying to like push that and maybe it didn't come across. Maybe that's the thing. I feel like Inside Out 1 is way better than Inside Out 2. And I feel like it is more of a movie which is a continuation. It is more of trying to show more emotions and make Riley a more holistic person.
Mm.
Other
Mhm.
than that, on just the storytelling point of view, I feel like it faltered in a lot of ways where
Okay.
they were not able to clearly state
Mm.
what I mean, they were showing anxiety's motive, yes, but
Mm.
what for Joy it was control. Is that she always had control. Her only point of ever doing anything was
She
to
does break down, right?
Joy breaks
At
down,
two
yes.
points.
In the end, even
Yeah.
anxiety breaks down. She has that
Yeah,
anxiety.
that the whole that visual is great, huh? By the
Oh
way,
my god, it's so
with that
good.
whole
Wormhole.
Anxiety
crystal
attack, yeah.
Yeah.
Tornado.
Even actually I had first I used to have a problem. I mean, in the beginning of the movie I had a problem with how the surfaces in the movie were so realistic. Did you
Mm.
notice that from the first one to this one, all the surfaces, all the textures look so tactile, everything looks like you can touch it, like, and
The
the
second part
characters.
for sure. First part I don't remember so much, but I
First
remember there are some shots in this one where you do look at it and you feel like it can't be any more realistic than this.
yeah,
Otherwise, it's like live action
Mm.
beyond that.
yeah, this is
Some shots
most,
at least.
yeah, this is like stylized photorealism at its peak. This is the
Mm.
best
Peak.
I've seen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know what. How could you better? this.
Yeah,
I don't know.
because they scale everything, right? They scale everything to the
Correct,
characters. Yeah, so
Okay.
all
correct,
like
correct,
all
correct.
if, even if I have a big head and big eyes and everything like that, and my body is small, then how will I accentuate my body figure? Like they've done it in such a way that it frames.
Ant-Man effect हो जाएगा वो.
Oh yeah, oh god, yeah, that's horrible. I hate that kind of photorealism. I don't like that
Yeah.
photorealism. It's too bad. And
Uh,
this had like uh, this had well, they
Mm.
had photorealism in the lighting and everything, where all
yeah.
the like very drab shots of the house or drab shots of the
The
Mm.
school, everything was
like
so bad.
Riley's home and Riley's life does look like photorealistic in the first part also. I mean, the attempt is that, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
Mm.
I guess they are trying to give a vibe of what it is like being in that space. Here it
Mm.
is
Mm,
very much, and then it came
emotions.
loose is what I loved about the movie, where in that
Mm.
anxiety attack sequence where like she's
Mm,
putting her chest and everything like that, and when she breathes in, like, like how you're supposed to do, this is supposed to be like in any anxiety attack you're supposed to do grounding technique. Grounding
Mm.
technique is using all your senses, test all your five senses. It's like breathe in,
Mm.
breathe out, and then you test touch. And then when she was touching, you could actually feel like, oh my, I could touch
Mm.
that seat that bench she was in, and you could
mm,
smell
mm.
and you could have the light and everything like that. She was hearing
Mm.
all the, and even the puck moving on the like she
On
could
the
hear
ice.
on the,
Yeah.
yeah, that was
Mm.
something that was
Overs.
very detailed, and
Mhm.
it helped the story rather than being a distraction, which I really liked. I
Mm.
like how the visuals were helping how to feel in,
Mm.
I mean, for the audience, communicating really well. My only problem with the whole movie was just that it really when it got to the vault and that whole cartoon thing happened, that kind of was like,
Oh yeah, yeah, that
like for
weakest
kids, yes. I was like, not for me. I think, yeah, for me it doesn't
video
work. It's
game
not made for
TSC
me.
character.
The movie is not made for old people. So, or it is made for, it can, old people can see it, but you can't.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's not something that you will relate to immediately.
I think it's very like having the pouchy character just appear to, it's like clearly reverse engineered so that
Yes.
they would eventually need a
Hmm.
way to go back and you
Go
have to
back.
like make it. matlab that's clearly the weakest part about the movie for me, but I
Yeah.
still can't believe through please mute this because there's one line I'll be spoiling from the new film is that I still can't believe. I mean, I can believe it, but I would rather not think about it a lot. That I actually cried during that one line where Joy has that realization and she says that maybe we just feel less joy as we grow
As we
up.
grow old,
And
yeah.
I was like, this is the
Hmm.
moment.
Yeah.
Sanjeet, we talked about in
That
the
one
last
line in the
episode.
film that
Yeah,
defines.
in caps, exactly. And I think that
Hmm.
is it for this movie. And it goes to say that
It is.
in
It is.
Inside Out 2, Riley, not just Riley, the emotions come of age as well. It's not just
Yes.
Riley
Yeah.
who's coming of
Yeah.
age.
Correct.
And
Correct. Correct.
I think it's clearly a worthy sequel in that regard, for me at
Mm.
least. Of course, it's not I
It's not perfect,
there's
but
no way
the
it could
first one
have
is
been better
perfect. Yeah.
than. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I.
But I was
I just.
surprisingly, I rewatched the first part, I think half an hour before going for the second one.
Me too. Yeah.
And I don't know what
I
state I
did.
was in, but I actually cried more. Of course, I cried in both the films. I cried more
Hmm.
during the second one. I don't know, maybe first viewing, I don't know. Or maybe it was just a
Hmm.
communal experience of sitting there and watching it on this
I've
big
actually
screen.
not seen part one since 2015 or
Oh, shit.
2016. So my memory is like whatever of what I remember from like almost 8 years back. Don't remember. I
Nice.
mean, that's why I have my own assumptions of what the first part was because it's
Mm.
been a while since I watched. That's
But
why I think it's a very good continuation of the story
yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're like jumping 2 years in time and still
Mm.
capturing everything actually what happens in 2 years also in a way.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but you are in this present in that particular moment, like which is a highlight in her life, right? Maybe we
Mm.
jump, let's say, next in her life at 18. Uh, but at a very particular moment when she's at 18, she's going to go through some incident, right? That's the
Mm.
whole beauty of the whole series.
Mm.
But in a way, my it's not a complaint, but I just wish I want more of left turns from sequels. That's all I wish for. Because
Mm.
I don't know if and we've spoken about this multiple times on podcast. I need something interesting happening, you know.
Mm.
Yeah. To
No,
keep
that's
engaging.
definitely a thing. Yeah. Not just that, I
Yes.
think engagement तो
I
उल्टे का
cried
इसमें
buckets.
there's more. There's more engagement with this familiarity, but I think you just need that when it comes to such a big studio that is investing in so many things, not just resources, but people, time, the
Hmm.
kind of time you put in. I think it's important after a point to experiment and break those barriers and
Exactly,
notions of
because
what
I
to
what
expect
I
from
expect
film.
of Pixar is not Illumination Studios like
Yeah.
Despicable Me. That's
Yeah,
not what
yeah,
I'm expecting. Right?
yeah,
You can watch
Mm,
Despicable Me, which is like like frothy fun type, and
yeah,
not expect
mm,
much out of them, or like Secret Life of Pets, which
yeah.
is
yeah.
just like on a certain level. But
Mm,
when you're watching with Pixar, there's a certain responsibility also that comes in because they've been there since like 20 years, 30 years now, right?
They were
1995 is when
they are
Toy
the
Story 1 came in.
yeah,
that's true.
the pioneers. Yeah,
They're the pioneers. Exactly, exactly.
yeah.
So it's just in general, I wish there was something
Mm,
more to catch, like grapple on to not just enjoy the film or like the story or like relate or. I cried in the film. I'm not saying I didn't, but
mm.
there's much more to that in a film, right? Like when
Yeah.
you watch something like Furiosa, like
What?
not
No, no, I
not
get it.
not
Furiosa. I cried
Furiosa.
not
when
not the
she
right
sings on the
comparison, but
freeway.
my point is that
We
that's
have
a film
already
that is
had a
trying
Gerega
to,
and Godfather 3.
but
Yeah,
it's not like a bad, yeah, I mean
yeah, no,
in
Gehra ya
comparison to that,
Gauka already happened. Sorry.
yeah.
I mean, okay, like if okay, so what do you expect out of what is the first movie that you felt like this is not, and this is not just animation, this is more than animation, like
Up,
Toy
that's what
Story
that's
3.
yeah, and
toy. That happened with me with Up, Wally, both, because
I would, the honest answer
you
would be Finding Nemo actually.
Finding Nemo also in me. I
Nemo
was
was
yeah.
classic, yeah. But I like
Yeah.
Finding Dory better. I felt like that was way better than Nemo.
Oh,
Like, it was
I
so
haven't
good.
seen it.
okay.
I
I
In
haven't
Dory
seen it.
was
2016
just
it came
amazing.
out, right?
Yeah.
2016
2016.
after Inside Out 2,
After
Inside Out
Inside,
Part 1,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Because
Inside
I
Out
think at that
was
point,
summer of 2015.
Yeah.
2016, 2015 November was Good Dinosaur, I remember,
yes,
Okay.
which didn't work so much, right?
it
Mm.
didn't at all. Yeah,
No, no.
it was very mid, and they had, but the
Mm.
same guy made
Mm-hmm.
Elemental also. It had very similar
Elemental is
sequences.
like very recent now, but like Elemental was in cinemas for like a very long time. I remember like people
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
kept on going for it for that. I think last year summer, I think
yeah. Some of
was in
Mm.
all of them came out in
cinema
Last
for a
summer
very
or
long time.
March, and the only like the weird ones are like Soul, which came out in December, I think, because of the Oscars,
on,
and
yeah,
Yeah,
on
yeah.
yeah, and
Disney
like
Plus.
I think it was also because of this the soundtrack. They wanted to push the soundtrack album earlier before the movie.
Mm.
Because it's jazz, right?
Well, no,
Dhruv has
something
a
needs
question.
to.
Okay,
Why does
sorry.
something need to be more than animation? Is because animation is just a tool, and animation is just a medium. You can show everything that you can't do in
Mm.
books. You can do in movies. In movies, you cannot do show a lot of things which are in real life, which you can do in animation. In animation, you can't show a lot of things which can only be done in 2D animation. There
Mm.
is, and sometimes you can't even have. There's too many limitations that come into many kinds of animations. Also, like stop motion animation, 3D animation. You've got your
Mm.
Hmm.
hybrid animation, where
Claymation.
claymation, that's also amazing. Like movies like Klaus, I really like Klaus because of like it does both
Even
at the
Varun likes Klaus. We
yeah,
were
it's
just
like
talking about it before you came.
because it feels like a fable, and where you have
So
just the
Klaus is on
story.
Netflix, yeah.
Yes, yeah. You watch it. It's a
Hmm.
very good movie. It's almost like a masterclass on setting up setting up characters and then doing payoffs through not just gags but through character movements. Like it is very compressed also. And with
Hmm.
animation movies,
High five.
it has to happen in a very concise manner, because animation is not just for adults. It's for like adults have the patience. Again, I'm going to go back to the sand riding scene from the worm riding scene from Dune 2.
Sand riding,
Sand
yes.
riding, yeah. So sand surfing. The Where people have the patience to stay with a character, breathe, and then try to figure out their problem in a very slow and methodical manner, because the scale at which you're showing something can make it look more dangerous. Like
Hmm.
in animation, nothing can be feel dangerous because it's not physical in any way. You can't see any kind of like air or breathing or anything like that. Voice acting can't really
Hmm.
show that immediately. It's all based on framing, pacing, and staging. So you
It's
have to
very precise.
You
in
have to
that
be
sense.
precise. Yeah, it's very mathematical, yeah. Because it
Hmm.
takes so fucking long to make these things. You have to plan everything. Like it's so
Yeah,
difficult to make an animated movie. You have to know all your story beats way beforehand. You need to know what is the moment that you're trying to sell. Like that's the thing. That's the
correct.
reason why
Inside
animation
Out too.
becomes more than
That
animation, is when you know those moments so well that every decision you've made
it
has been
transcends the
precise.
medium. No.
It transcends emotion. It translates to emotion rather than you thinking about, oh, what's happening.
Hmm.
You have to feel something rather and be in the moment rather than actually observe what's happening. Like for us, like all of us are jaded. Like we are all like, we have had too much of this. Like we've been in this buffet for so long, we know all the dishes. So you can't we are not surprised by anything, right? So all I
Hmm.
want to do is that I want to have like I want to be able to like just tap into it and just flow into whatever emotion is being presented to me, rather than
Hmm.
question,
Hmm. Hmm.
why am I feeling this? Is this deserved? So in Inside Out 2, it feels deserved most of the time, but when you guys are talking about the landmark moment of like maybe adults don't feel joy all the time, that should have been the selling point. That should have been like the whole. They should have been
Conceit.
building up to that moment the whole time. It feels like it's like you when you see it, you feel like this seems like the emotion that should have hit, or this should have been the big moment. And then the moment passed. The thing is that the moment shouldn't pass. The moment you should be able to breathe in that moment.
Breathe.
That's important,
Yes.
rather than
Hmm.
let it pass by and let the story just keep going. Like Soul
Yeah.
has that, because Soul deliberately has a scene where they're doing the flashback, and then they have that whole what is that, enlightenment or whatever, what is
I have
that called?
not seen the film.
Epiphany. Yeah, just listen to that soundtrack. One track is the Epiphany. Okay, it's
Okay.
it's like both Trent Reznor and John Batiste on piano
Who
together.
scored that film?
John Batiste and Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. They won the Oscar, second Oscar. Imagine that.
What?
Yeah,
Ah,
They scored it.
yeah. So all the
Social
post
network वाले ना basically.
social network. Yeah, come
Yeah.
on, Nine Inch Nails. Don't say social network.
9 Inch
Yeah,
Nails.
whatever, but
Please
it's
listen to Nine Inch Nails. Anyone who
recently
in the
what movie?
90s. Okay, I'll tell you a short
Yeah.
digression. In the
Yeah.
90s, David Bowie was actually earning less than Trent Reznor. So Trent Reznor said that he's my hero. I want to play with him. So he just went on tour with David Bowie. And he just gave all of his proceedings to David Bowie, because he was like, "This guy's my legend. If he's having a hard time, I don't know what's wrong with the world." So, and he had like I think
That's
crores that David
90s
Bowie helped him with.
pop का
Yeah,
चूतिया का
problem.
start हो
Yeah,
गया था.
but they did industrial techno and everything like that. And in
Okay.
Soul, the not the second half, like the part where you go into the the beyond,
Hmm.
beyond life and stuff. All that is done by Trent Reznor, and it's very inventive. It's nothing like you've heard any of the other stuff that they've done,
Hmm.
and it's very different from this style. Like Inside Out style is very similar to the Up style, like the upbeat, like
Sentimental
very
and upbeat.
momentum based. Yeah, it's not vibe based. Yeah, like yeah.
There's a documentary on John Batiste.
Oh yeah, his wife got cancer, and it's called the American Symphony. So it's basically him
Okay.
writing a symphony during his wife's chemotherapy. So it's like very
Okay.
intense in the
Interesting.
beginning. Yeah, and then they have like a whole performance and everything where the power goes out, and then they build that into the performance, where they have no power, there no light, no anything, or any electronic instruments don't work anymore. So all they're doing is using percussion to drive the emotions of like their symphony. So it grew. It's
Okay.
while he was touring, he grew that symphony and everything. That's the whole documentary. Anyway,
Okay. Okay.
so
Okay.
the point the point was kahan se kahan gaye. So
So
the
as a continuation to what you were also saying, and not
yeah.
continuation, just like a pushback. I just think the implication saying this carries sort of pushes down animation as a medium was live action is all. Like more than animation as a statement.
Well, okay. So how do
I
you
don't think so. It
compare an
pushes
Edgar
down. I
Wright
think
movie? How do you compare an Edgar Wright movie to an animation movie? Is that even he's precise? Even he is very. He knows exactly where the emotional beats are. He knows what he's doing. But
hmm,
for him, he is able to. You're able to look at a person and see how their emotion is changing very organically, and feel that
hmm.
on your own. In animation, you don't have that flexibility. So it's a sign of the constraint of the medium. You have more constraints, so because of that more constraint, you have to get more
It's also
creative.
about performers, right? In
Yes.
live action, there are
Well, yeah.
performers, humans
I mean,
performing.
animators are also performers. They all do reference their own
Sure,
choreography and
but it's
stuff. Yeah.
created, right? It's
Yes,
not.
exactly. It's manufactured. It's not something that's it comes out organically. So you can improv lines and stuff like those, like, or like, oh, how's that for a bit of fried gold? That all that stuff is improvised. Like you can't have that in animation. You can have
Yeah.
maybe some movements, but you can't have it for everything. So
Dhruv also says, shouldn't animation then be a harder goal to achieve because it is highly
it
artificial
is.
laden?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and that's why they
It
have to
is.
get safe. That's the whole reason that they have to be. And when you come up with the movie like, but like Inside Out, where it's more concept driven. It's not exactly like movie driven. Where the concept is you
Correct, 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 correct.
driving the thing.
Concept overpowers the
Yeah.
the one writing thing, and then others sort of take over. The characters take over. The emotions
Yes.
take over.
Yeah.
But
To
the
stay for
concept
the
needs to be
characters
sold
all the
before
time, right?
anything else.
Yeah, for anything like Inception is it's a concept based movie shown through action.
First
But I
concept,
got
and then other
yeah.
things sell the concept.
Yeah, and I stayed for. I mean, you stay for the characters because the characters are the one who are
Yeah.
driving the story. Yeah. So I mean, I don't
Yes.
like any of them. None of them are likable characters. It's just that they're characters that can
But the
actually.
characters are sort of driving the whole
Yeah,
narrative in a
and
way, right?
they're
Because they want to achieve something.
yeah,
Cobb wants to achieve something and whatnot.
exactly. They're written in a way where they achieve, where their goals and their inner worlds are being shown in a very concise way. Where you maybe one line, a throwaway line, can actually be a lot of information for someone's
Hmm.
life. So you can see them inside out. So and they have, I mean, at least in animation they have a huge responsibility to the audience because they have to engage them immediately, like they, I mean,
Yeah.
because
In an artifice medium,
in
right? That's the whole
in
point.
an artifice laden medium. Yeah,
Medium.
but I think
Debolina also says, what about Pinocchio, the Guillermo one?
oh
Did you
that
see Pinocchio?
it's so good, like
I
it's
love
really
it.
I liked it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like it's
We've
again
done an episode on like 2 years
We've
back.
done, I think. I think
Yeah.
in best of the year list we did it.
No, no. Before that, also, I think we did with
When it
Dhruv and
came on
Amantya.
Netflix. Acha.
Yes,
Okay.
Pinocchio, and I think uh, the Birdman guys movie also had come out. Bardo.
Bardo.
So I think both of them we did together. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, we there's an episode on Queen's.
Two
But
of
yeah,
the
I
three
think
because
yeah, two of the three was yes. Interesting film, I think. Yeah. Anything else? Have you seen Frozen? I've not seen Frozen.
I have
Long back, I
it,
think, when it
I
came
have,
out.
and
Didn't love
it's more a Disney movie than a Pixar movie. It's like it's
Disney musical.
it's got emotions that's there. It's got more of the songs mostly. It's mostly built around the songs and like how the
Okay,
characters get to the songs rather.
it's a
There are some,
proper
no, I mean,
Disney production, right?
some movies which are great, some movies which actually come up with the songs which come very naturally, like the song starts in a very natural way. Like there are many musicals like I mean, the one that always comes first to mind is Sound of Music, or like for animated movies Lion King is amazing, like it's incredible.
Lion King, sure.
Yeah,
Hans Zimmer.
yeah, Hans Zimmer won the Oscar and for that, like imagine
Beautiful.
Hans Zimmer didn't win until Dune. First one was Lion King. But he, like, I think all of these movies tend to, at least the newer ones, at least the musicals, tend to be more, oh, we're trying to sell a song here, so we have to get to that song. Everyone has heard this already. We usually release the songs before the movie. Like I saw
Yeah.
Trolls 2.
The whole catch is that you're listening to it in cinema.
Yeah,
The best
exactly.
sound, the best
With the
visual.
people, yeah, yeah, and everyone
With
is
people,
like,
yes.
yeah, everyone is like in that experience together. I like
I think
movies.
I think the one Disney animated film that I really enjoyed is Zootopia
Oh yeah, that was fun.
back in
Zootopia is
2016.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I actually
but
like.
not beyond
Have you guys
that.
seen Bad Guys?
Which one?
Bad Guys.
Bad Guys. It's where it's like a snake. They have like a whole crew and everything.
What?
Bad Guys. The bad guy.
No,
It's
I
got
haven't
Richard
seen
Ayoade.
this.
It's got Sam Rockwell as Mr. Wolf. It's got Aquafina, Zazie Beats, Alex Bonstein. Man, it's an amazing cast. Like Lily
Stacked.
Singh, Anthony Ramos, Mark Maron, Craig Robinson, Walt Doan. Okay, now
It's a heist comedy.
Yeah,
What?
it is a heist
It's a
comedy. Yeah,
universe, a DreamWorks ka movie it is, huh?
yeah, it's a DreamWorks movie. Yeah, and they had
Hmm.
like a pretty good time making that too. And these kind of movies like
It's a very
Croods,
low budget film, huh?
another one,
When
yeah,
was this?
like 2022.
2022.
Yeah.
I'm not
Okay.
talking about the Croods. I'm talking about the
Oh, the bad
other
guys.
one,
Yeah.
Bad Guys.
In all these movies, at least I've seen one thing that's very common in all of them is that they are, of course, all of them have to be adventure movies. I have seen any
I mean,
3D.
that's the whole sell, right? You need to take the
Hmm.
audiences on a journey. Zootopia
Yeah,
is also basically at the end a suspense film where you're basically getting on with the
it's a
characters.
noir film. Yeah,
Noir film, yeah. You're
yeah,
discovering with the characters, the surrogate characters.
yeah.
So
Hmm.
that's pretty much. Any more thoughts about Inside Out 2 which you guys want to add? And
Uh,
before we wrap it up,
I really like the soundtrack, the new. I mean, the same soundtrack, but the new instruments. They made a band basically. So like they use the guitar, like electric guitar a lot. I like that a lot. I love the sequences in. I guess the soundtrack wasn't as big a character in this movie as it was in the old, the first movie, because like the moment like Dhruv was talking about, where like the,
it's only
like,
noticeable, I think, in one moment in
yeah,
part 2. I
yeah,
don't remember. I can't
it's the
remember
beginning of the
having.
movie, mostly the beginning of the movie, and then there is the sequence where anxiety is throwing people back, like where they have that like very like hum hum hum, like very like sub bass kind of a sound that comes while they're trying to be thrown off, or they're put
Hmm.
into a jar and everything. They're we are suppressed emotions, is what they say. And,
Oh, that was
yeah.
good line.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
I
the
mean, shout out to
journalistic. The rumor mill is my favorite. The rumor mill is so great, where they are all like, their anxiety is telling them what to write and everything. It feels like the news desk of a current newspaper. It's like you just
Hmm.
give anxiety-ridden stories, and it's like, where is the journalistic integrity? Is what like anger says.
oh yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I
Yeah.
was like, wow, this is like adults will get this joke. No kid is gonna get this joke.
Uncle,
This is,
proper
yeah, some
uncle.
uncle joke. This is, yeah.
Aryan, what
I
about
mean,
you? Any closing thoughts?
shout out to that old lady called Nostalgia who
Yeah,
keeps
nostalgic.
coming from the
Nostalgia
journal.
keeps coming in. Nice, nice.
And it's
Oh,
like a good internal joke as well. Pixar knows that it's clearly going to be in a safe space now just because of this film after the debacles it's had in the
Yeah, yeah,
previous
yeah.
movie.
oh yeah.
And it's like we are
Done well.
clearly like unabashedly playing on nostalgia, but we'll just keep her in the closet
100%.
away
Yeah.
from your eyes.
But not really,
Not really.
Not
We
really.
know.
because it's lurking around somewhere.
Yeah. I
Sure.
guess it'll
I also
eventually
quite
get
liked
it.
it. I think it's a very
Yeah.
good film. You can definitely go and watch it with families and
Yeah.
whoever you want to, actually. It's a very enjoyable film in that sense.
Oscar potential.
I just wish there was more to it, but that is
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. I
That is
mean,
me.
I think it I don't know. It fell short a little bit emotionally, maybe for me, but
Hmm.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
still good. It's very
it's a
good,
good movie.
actually.
It's a good
No
movie. Yeah, it's a
complaints
very good
per
movie. We are
se.
really being nitpicky at this point. Like, I think this
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
very,
we are being
Thank
nitpicky. I
God.
agree.
yeah.
It's a good film.
This would be a Roger Ebert 4 on 4, honestly. But
A
it's,
100%.
yeah.
Two thumbs up with Siskel and
Thumbs up
Ebert.
with Stan Ebert, yeah.
Sure. There's
Okay.
nothing more to add from the comment section also.
Yeah.
It's done very well in cinemas. So please go watch it.
No idea.
I think
This was songs. Okay.
this is
Hell.
the end of the episode. Thank you so much
What
for
did
sticking
Varun
around.
like? What did he say? Believe it or not, I liked it.
Uh,
Soul? Was it
Pinocchio.
Pinocchio? Okay, yeah.
Pinocchio.
Pinocchio, yeah.
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 This is the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Please subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Spotify. It helps us reach out to more people. You can follow Aryan on his Instagram page at Aryan Talks Film. Hemant on his Instagram page at
My
Hemant Gant.
LinkedIn
You can follow
page
me at pixel
is
underscore Baba. What?
linkedin.com/Hemant.
Yes, give him more work. He'll do animation also for people.
Endorse my CAD skills.
CAD skills, yes. Anything else?
uh,
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for supporting us. This is the end of this. Please go check out the new episode on Spotify. There's a new episode coming out next week. We do live stream also every Monday. Make sure you join us every week, interact with us, have fun, enjoy. Bye bye. End
oh,
stream.
again, say khatam. You
Khatam.
didn't say khatam.
I'm saying khatam.
Say it again.
Khatam.
Okay.